olá mochileiras, aqui é a Mai e hoje temos uma entrevista exclusiva aqui no canal. Eu não estou falando isso só porque eu sempre quis anunciar uma, é de verdade. Meses atrás eu tive a oportunidade de entrevistar o ator, produtor, músico, compositor e escritor Michael Nesmith. Ele ficou conhecido com a First National Band, Second National Band e a banda e série de TV The Monkees. Aí vocês perguntam por que ele está aqui no canal. Bom, ele e Douglas Adams eram amigos inseparáveis. Douglas era como um irmão para o Michael e eu li um pouco sobre a amizade deles na biografia Infinite Tuesday. Tem vários momentos da amizade deles lá. E eu fiquei muito curiosa e pensei, bom, vou tentar a sorte. Quem sabe consigo falar com ele mais sobre isso. E deu certo. Consegui entrevista com o Michael e ele super topou na hora. E por que essa entrevista é exclusiva? Porque nesses 20 anos da morte de Douglas Adams, Michael nunca conversou com ninguém sobre eles dois, sobre a amizade deles e sobre tudo que ele sabe do escritor. Foi muito emocionante, foi muito divertida. A gente conhece mais sobre o Douglas não só do Guia, mas o Douglas de Dirk Gently, o Douglas de Last Chance to See principalmente, todas as viagens que ele fazia e contava as histórias para Michael. Foi lindo porque tem momentos muito emocionantes. Michael se emociona várias vezes e tem momentos bem espirituais também, o que torna tudo mais divertido. Sei que ninguém poderia esperar de uma entrevista falando de um cara que era totalmente ateu e nunca escondeu isso. Michael cita bastante isso. Michael também conta de quando ele conheceu Terry Jones e foi muito engraçado. Eu tinha lido na biografia dele, mas ele contando é muito mais divertido. Eu tenho certeza que vocês vão curtir e, claro, se vocês quiserem conhecer mais sobre o trabalho de Michael Nesmith, entre no canal do YouTube dele, Michael Nesmith Video Ranch. Tem vários vídeos dele, vários videoclipes e várias sketches também. Ele escreveu muita coisa, produziu muitos trabalhos. Ele foi o cara que ganhou o primeiro prêmio na categoria videoclipe do Grammy. Ele trouxe a MTV pra gente, lá dos anos 80. Então vale a pena conhecer e ir atrás do trabalho dele, mas hoje estamos falando só de Douglas Adams. Então, espero que vocês curtam a entrevista.
Can you see me?
Now, yes, I can. Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Okay, I had both of my shots. This has been a big one, huh?
You are way better than me then.
This is the second one I've been through. I mean, son of a bitch. What do we do? I'll do anything.
Just talking.
Where are you?
I'm in Brazil.
Brazil?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, hi, welcome.
Hi. Good morning to you.
Yes. Well, what do you want to talk about, Mayara? I mean, I'm happy to talk anything. You want to talk about Douglas? You want to talk a picture of my children sitting right here?
Anything you are available for. I knew about your relationship with Douglas, but I think reading Infinite Tuesday, I got really into it. But I want to know from you. I want to know like how it started, because for my understanding, it started like his agent talking to you about the movie rights, and then later you became friends. So I want to know a little bit about that.
Other way around.
Oh.
Douglas and I started talking about it, and we should do something. And we just agreed. You know, we were hanging out. He was coming to Carmel. I was going to London. We were in each other's travels. Anytime he would land in an airport, he would call me. And so when it rang, I could see that it was Douglas. I would pick it up before I would even say hello. I'd say, "Where are you?" Because, you know, it could have been in, Kuala Lumpur for all I know. And so I was always glad to hear from him. And we would talk, you know, especially if he was waiting for a plane or something, we would just gab for hours. It was really invigorating to me because he was such a good thinker. He was not the sort that would run off down a road checking out some rumor or something that was going on that wasn't as important as it first appeared. He was a clear thinker, and he had very good ideas. But of course, the number one asset of his was humor. Was how he would go when he would go funny, because he would go funny. You knew the dinner was going to be good when that happened. He and I would go out in dinner parties from time to time that typically were never more than 4 or 6 people. But what a thrill it was, because of the way he thought. Now, if you want to know how he thought, read his books. That's all you need to know. And if you want to know what I think his best book is, Dirk Gently.
I love Dirk Gently.
Do you like Dirk Gently?
I love it. It took some time to be translated to Portuguese, so it took some time for me to read it. But I love Dirk Gently and Last Chance to See. I think Last Chance to See is amazing because it's not a fiction, but he's really funny in it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Did you ever see the lecture that he gave? I'm going to say it was UCLA or one of those fancy West Coast colleges. And it's a lecture about a trip that he made to Australia.
Parrots, the Universe and Everything, I think is the name of the lecture. Is this one?
What was it called?
The Parrots, the Universe and Everything.
Really?
I think it's that one. I think it's that one that is on YouTube.
The lecture that he gives is hilarious.
Yes.
Because he talks in detail about going to the little shop that put him into a little travel boat that was going to go out on this island. And on this island were things there like black mambas and, you know, triple poisonous porcupines.
Yeah.
And he said he went into a shop where people had said, you know, go talk to this guy because he knows what's out there. And, you know, there's some of it you don't want to touch. Well, how did it go? He said, everybody said the same thing. What was it? Don't get bit. I said, that sounds like good advice wherever you are, World War III or on a nature walk. But went to visit this guy. This guy said, well, you know, there's some stuff out there. One of them is a black mamba. Well, you have poisonous, most deadly snake in the world. And that if you are bit, you die within moments. Well, I don't know how true any of this stuff is. I'm just carrying forward rumors. Everybody told him the same thing. Douglas said, well, if you get bit by a black mamba and you're going to die in seconds, what do? Everybody said the same thing. Don't get bit.
Is the solution.
Yeah, we don't have any way of curing that. If you get bit by a black mamba, go home and die. You're on your own. He didn't say that. I just said that. We were playmates of a sort. And, well, not of a sort. We were playmates of the first order. We would usually make trouble wherever we were. But it was, like Lewis said, good trouble. We never got in trouble. But what happened over a period of time is I just fell in love with Douglas. He was one of my favorite people. He was so smart. And I guess everybody comes back around to that, to how intelligent he was. And his intelligence was so impressive. I mean, it wasn't that he had a vast repository of information. It's that he saw how it all connected. And when he would roll off onto one of those, it was like his books. And if he was sitting there at a table with you and started in on the don't get bit story, you know, you were captivated. He told a story here about at my house. One time we had a bunch of people over from the Santa Fe Institute, you know, big shots, and not in the institute, but just in terms of thinking and Nobels and stuff like that. And he sat and regaled that dinner party, which was maybe 8 or 9 people, and they were all just fascinated. And what he wanted to lay on them all was the theory that man was aquatic. I know nothing. I know nothing. I don't even know what aquatic means, okay? I don't know. I'm going to go get everybody another drink. How's that feel? And when I'll come back with a few of these, and then we can figure out what the fuck is this guy talking about? Which was always a great way in. Davis people would look at him like and go,
what?
Don't get bit. He didn't smoke tobacco, and I don't think he smoked much grass. I'm a regular grass smoker, and sitting around getting high with Douglas was just, I always felt like it was a gift from God. He said, oh, you want to have a good time? Here, this guy is Douglas Adam. He's a writer. Smoke one of these, go over and hang. a life changer.
Well,
Life changer.
I can say that I really envy you for that. Really do.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Well, there was some trouble to it. I'm so sorry he died. And I miss him so much. I remember after he died, Victoria, my wife at the time, and I were driving back from New Mexico, and I got an emergency phone call in the car, and it was my attorney, and he said, "I've got to talk to you." I said, "What?" He said, "Douglas just died." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, he was at the gym and he was working out and his heart stopped and they couldn't resuscitate him." And I thought, God damn, that was my favorite guy of all time. Where, you know, he was more fun than wives and lovers. He was, you know, he was a playmate. Boy, these guys are hard to find. My second wife, I think, Victoria, was a playmate. Oh God, I love this woman. She's still alive. But there are people like that come into our life, and Douglas was one of them. When he came in, he was a shining light. He was just great hanging out with him. I don't know whether this has given you anything you can use in your show.
It's giving me a lot, for real.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, just shut me up.
Don't worry, you can keep going. I'm not worried.
Well, people tell me that I prattle, so I don't want to do that with you because I know you're a pro, and I want to give you what you can use. But could you give me a little idea about where you're going with this? Are you going to give a lecture? Are you going to give a talk? What are you write a book?
We every year we run a convention in his honor for fans in Brazil. We have the Towel Day that happens every May. So we do this here. And every year we try to talk to someone. Usually we do like everybody together, but since last year, because of the pandemic, we're starting a virtual version of it. So, and we've met some people in 2017 when we went to England. So we met his sister, which is an amazing person. Sue Adams is like great. And people who worked with him.
Let me just tell you quick about his sister.
Yeah.
His wife at the time, who's now passed,
yeah,
called me before this is going to be hard for me, but you'll excuse the.
That's okay.
That she called me and she said, "You know, Douglas died. Would you give the eulogy?" I said, "No, I'm not competent to do that, especially with somebody that I loved as much as I love Douglas, because it was true. I loved him as much as a man can love another man. You know, he was just a guy I thought I'd like to be with him all the time." He was this partner who knew what we were doing. We were trying to make a Hitchhiker's Guide from the Galaxy. It didn't work out. He turned it over to his team. And I just stepped back. And so the movie that you now see as Hitchhiker's Guide, I had nothing to do with, except to talk to Douglas every day for hours. And he hammered it together from that standpoint. I could see how he was a long distance worker, and he was understanding the way that the universe was connected with these long threads that went eons and went farther than you and I can imagine, and would connect to something else. And the message was, don't get bit. So you laughed, but then after it was over, it was like, don't get bit by what? A black mamba. Don't get bit by a black mamba. What's Black Mamba? I thought that was a rock and roll band. No, it's a very, very deadly venomous viper that lives down in Australia and just sits there and waits for you. That's not true, but anyway, it was great going with him. And what I'm trying to say is, you know, there was a side to Douglas that most people missed. I noticed that the minute they came around, and they would all somehow meet up with him at my house in Carmel. He called up one time and he said, this is in the book, you read this already, and if you read the book, and he called up and he said, listen, Terry Jones is coming in to New Mexico. Could he and I come up, you know, for dinner and stay the weekend? I said, can you ever? Of course, bring Terry Jones with you or anybody like that. You and me and Terry Jones, what could go wrong? Yeah. So he shows up with Terry Jones, and I felt just madly in love with Terry like I did with Douglas. Now, I don't know whether Terry's still with us. I don't he's non-compos mentis when I saw him.
He's not with us.
Yeah. And I said, Terry, do you remember me at all? And I said, you came and spent the weekend with me and Douglas Adams at my house. It's going to make me cry. And I said, I'm Michael. And I gave him no credit. So I just said, I'm Michael. I was a good friend of Douglas's. And you stayed the night at the house. He said, oh yeah. No, I don't remember you or the house, or I sort of remember Douglas. And he was in sad state then, you know, I just couldn't completely connect with him. But it was Terry Jones. It was really Terry Jones in there. And so maybe I was like the other pythons, please God, but whatever it was, he was immediately dear to me. I mean, he had made me laugh as hard as anybody laughed. And here was one of the best laughs I ever had with Terry Jones. He shows up at the house with Douglas. Now, before they get there, I realized that we've just moved in and I have what appear to be thousands of throw pillows. And I left them around the house. And I put a bunch of them on Terry's bed and in Terry's room and so forth. And we were going around the house. And I was thinking, this is where you can get something to drink, and this is the bathroom, this is where the shower is. And so it's just stuff you do with, you know, getting people oriented to what they want to be and how they want to be in the house and so on and so forth. And I was watching, I was thinking, what is the timing in Douglas and timing in Terry and timing in the other pythons that I never met? Well, I met them, but I never got close to them like I did. You know, I mean, I know Eric and I knew people like that, but I never was on the inside there. I just was, you know, Douglas's pal. You know, we went out and made trouble, good trouble, that Lewis said. Whatever he was doing to bring all that to life in his life, I never knew. I don't know what it was. I think it's just, we notice, and I may have written this in the book, we notice from time to time that there is a light, otherwise hidden, that we start to discern with people. It's spiritual, so you can't see it. It's not their shirt, it's not their teeth, it's not their hair, it's none of that. It's purely spiritual. And when it's spiritual, I love this aspect of universal order. It glows. It glows in the dark. It glows. And when I realized that Douglas was glowing like that, oh, it's very faint, trust me, but it's there. And you look at it, you're like, holy shit, it's really happening. That was the best time. So I'm standing there, the room is glowing. Terry's standing over next to his bed, piled high with pillows like this. And I'm trying to hide. And I said, do you have everything you need, Terry? Can I get you anything? I mean, I don't know how to set the bathrooms up, but we have all kinds of gear in the visitor's closet. So I can bring you anything that you'd like to have if you feel like you're a little short on anything. And he took what I've come to learn is the ironic pause. And it's a pause that you would throw in to some story that you're telling where people realize, wait a minute. But if it's true, it gets really very funny and fun. And Terry looked at me and he said, well, no, I feel like I've got everything I could use. This looks great to me. I might could use some more pillows. And I went, oh shit. I don't have any more pillows. I looked at him and I said, Terry, I'm not sure I have any more anyway. That's when I knew I'd been had. And I thought, these are the best. These are the world champion ironic pause. They wait for you to sink. And then they offer you a pinky finger to lift you out of the water, which you find out because you're in this zone of irony, you're weightless. And that was the part of Douglas that got the most fun. We were weightless. You know, and every once in a while we'd just take off and
I have to say that when I read it on your book, talking about your relationship, I had that moment of, I'm amazed, but I'm not surprised, because I love your acting and your sense of humor and everything that you do. And I thought it was so similar. It got me to a point like, okay, I'm a really big Douglas Adams fan. Like it makes sense to like so much about your work. It makes sense, this relationship. Your sense of humor were so look-alike. It was everything connected between you two.
Yeah. Except don't get bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave them over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And that's the way he was. You suddenly noticed when he walked into a room, especially if you were with him, the room changed. The whole biosphere changed. I mean, you would walk into a room and you would see all this biomass sitting around there in the form of mortality and mortals. And it was all changing because Douglas was there. He was seeing it in a different way. And I got a sense what it must have been like around very high thinkers when you would be with them and they would start riffing and you realize this guy's doing stand-up. And whether it was some holy man or woman who could instantly heal people that had been afflicted all their lives, or whether they were just some nub out having a chili dog with you, it changed everything. So if I can leave you with that, I'm not that I'm preparing to leave, but if you can get that from me, that Douglas changed things when he touched them, when he started thinking about them. And I was so impressed with that because it's a study of mind. Where does mind control our existence? And that's where it's right at that point of revelation. And Douglas was way out on the front of that boat, looking way over the brow down into the water. I always figured he saw dolphins down there. And the boat was unnavigable. I never knew. It was huge. I never knew where we were going, any of those kinds of things. But for my money, that's the best kind of friend you can have. Have you ever eaten such and such a? No. You want to try it? No. Okay, well, I know where we can get some. But Douglas, that sounds horrible. Oh, no, you'll like it. And it was usually kind of a mixture of what I thought and what he thought. But never a better playmate. And I miss him as like I miss my second wife. She was probably the best playmate outside of Douglas. And she was crazy for him too. I mean, we were all, he was part of our family. That was it. So when he died, it was tragic for me and I couldn't talk about it. I'm surprised I could talk about it as much as I could today, but he was a beautiful man. I know there were a lot of people that did not like him, but I wasn't one of them.
I don't think that's possible. Come on. How can someone not like him?
I don't know. You know, there are people who have these power lives. They appear to be power lives and they're not, you know, they're just like you and me. But there's something that's going on and it dawns on you and you realize, oh, that's the spirit of Mayara and it's the spirit of Michael and it's the spirit of Melody and the people who are around me right now. And that spirit is what obtains. It keeps going. And so that's what I remember about him. I mean, he brought the light of intelligence and the light of spirit. He brought that look. He brought that to everything he was looking. He didn't do it consciously. He didn't say, here, watch this. Boom. He did nothing like that. It was just, he would point something out, you know, like that's an irony-free zone. It would be perfectly salient, perfectly useful, and we were on to the next thing. That was the roller coaster ride, the rocket ride. It was so much fun.
And
anyway, I think I'm out of stories now.
But why? What didn't work about you working together? Why that didn't happen?
Well, he found other people that he was. I got busy. Our paths diverged, and you know, he kept working with the people he was working with. I was invited on more than one occasion. He introduced me to everybody. But you know something, Manana, there's something about people in different cultures and languages and, you know, Brazil. It just, you're not the same as people who are in, you know, what did I say, Kuala Lumpur, there. So I had to learn that, and Douglas gave me some really fine points. One of them, don't get bit.
I remember that, like, it would be, I want to write it down. I'm going to write it down everywhere. You keep it in my life.
It's life's great truths from the mouth of Douglas Adams. Well, I think there were people who would have, you know, been just as happy if he wasn't around, but wasn't me. I was thrilled that he was in my life, and I was thrilled that he was alive on the planet when I was, and all that kind of stuff. And I think you've got a really great subject there, because we have to look at these extraordinary individuals. He was one. And we have to ask, how does LeBron James always make the shot? How does that happen? I don't know, but they do. And when they do, I think we should stand up and applaud and honor that and say, wow, look what a human did. But we don't. We got more popcorn and more beer and yell for our team. And Douglas understood what it meant to be part of life's experience, the mass of life. And he understood what it meant to be connected. He understood what it was connected to me. When he connected with me, it was a heart space. You know, we were like brothers from another mother, or whatever the joke phrase is. And I could tell that he was happy to have the friendship, that it was a rare thing in his life. And so when I would go to London, and we would go out to dinner, oh man, what a time those would be. Because it'd be populated with people I'd never seen before, and had no idea who they were. And then every once in a while they would go, and play a completely different language with completely different points and notions. And Douglas would look over and go, and start speaking the language. And I would say, hey, I'm here. I just only got to the tapioca, please. So it was full of the same vicissitudes that your life is and my life is, and so forth. But they were lovely. They were lovely. I have not one bad word to say about this man. You know, he was free with his critique. And if somebody came on the wrong side of that, they would get a good dose of what it meant to be a world-class 14 million books sold author. But those are special people, and Douglas is one of them.
A lot of the fans, like, which is interesting because he used to talk a lot about religions, and like it wasn't something part of his life. So it was the kind of conversation that you used to have about religions.
Well, I think I'm not being unfair when I say that he was anti-religion. He was certainly, I don't want to use the word anti because anti means don't get bit. And he was very careful about his ideas of God, very careful about his ideas about a grand master, about a universal order. And he would piece it together so that if you guys wandered into that territory of conversation, and typically at dinner it would happen, you know, does anybody here have a gun? Conversation stops at the table. It's like, what? No. So you knew it was going to do that all night. Excuse me. So when our paths diverged, I don't know where he is or what he's doing or what happens after we die. So can I help you with that? You need to probably send him an email. But the idea that Douglas was watching this from a high perch, from some distance, just made me ache to get on that high perch with him. But I don't know how to do it. I mean, he was sweet generous.
It's amazing because most of the people that we know and we talk, of course, they talk about his personality, but it's more about his work. It's more about what he was doing,
Sure.
what he was writing and acting, because he made a part, he showed up in the TV show, the Hitchhiker's TV show. He was always doing something. And everybody who talked about him, talk about his work. Because we are huge fans, and being fans, we like to know more about the person. And knowing that what he showed in his books was his real person, what he was like that, I think make us admire him more. And it's amazing listening to your stories, especially because it's a different side. And of course, most of the people that we talk are British. So you are the first American that I have that contact talking about Douglas Adams. I know some American fans, but it's different when you know someone like who knows him and is a different culture, but with such a similar sense of humor. So it's amazing that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I can be any part of it I can be. There's some parts of it that are confidential, but pretty much, I think it was the same with Douglas and I. He was an open book. He was not a furtive, secretive guy. And he was very aware of political situations around the world and so forth. And he was, because of it, he was a nurturer. He would feed people like you and me and tell us what we wanted to hear and wanted to know about the way he thought. And usually the way he thought was so, what's the word? I want to say convoluted, but it wasn't folded like used paper bags. It was folded carefully like, what's the Japanese paper folding thing where they make the
origami.
Swan? Origami. And it was folded like origami, and you realize that his head was full of that. And when that was happening, your eyes would start to go wider. You're like, can I see this? No, you can't. All you can do is just bathe in its warmth. And I hope for you and everybody that's listening to this, you find somebody like that. And I would also caution that you're going to find them perhaps and probably in your family. We all have these treasures in our family that we don't know anything about. Now, no doubt, some of them turn into murderers and killers and robbers, and we don't want them in our family. But this was not Douglas. Douglas purified things, and Douglas got to the heart of the matter, which was don't get bit. Take a listen to the lecture, and you'll see what I'm talking. He's talking about the way the mating ritual of some crazy animal that lives down in Tasmania. And I can't, gosh, I wish I could think of the name of it, but I can't. And if I do, I'll send it to you. But this lecture about these critters that he ran into and about how you don't want to get bit was full of these remarkable ideas that occupy his books and populate his books. I mean, he was on to the same thing that makes you and me love him. And he knew he was on it, and he very carefully surfed it. And he was always kind of in a balance, doing it. I mean, he was huge, so, but he was, it was always, when we were out, there was a certain dance step that we never missed. And we loved, do-si-do, and it would happen. And we'd come back down to earth and start back up to, did you get bit? No. Okay, let's go do it again.
It's safe now.
And now it's okay.
Yesterday, we celebrated his birthday, and we talk about him a lot. Like the whole day, we were talking about him.
Good.
And
we'll carry these stories forward, maybe, and other people will enjoy it.
One thing yesterday that we thought about it was how he would be now, like what he would be thinking. Like if something, especially because now we are living in the situation that we think that it would be beyond what he could write, but it's a possibility with that sense of humor of his. But what do you think that he would be now? Like, what would be his opinion about the situation about pandemic and governments all over this country, like in Brazil, United States, and UK? I think we're having similar problems about government. and the pandemic and everything, what do you think that he would think about it or laugh about it, about what we are living now?
Well, I think what he did with me, and when we were just out socializing, like we did most of the time when we were together, I think he would be very much on the path that he's on in his books. He was never afraid of the philosophic and the religious and the odder, more curious ways that human beings and mortals have of figuring out where the hell are we and what are we doing here and how do we get out of here. He was right in that, you know, he knew what was going on there. Being with people around Douglas, you were in a classroom in a way. That's too tough because it sounds too stuffy. And Douglas was anything but stuffy. I guess he was just a guy that hung out in the world. He met me there. I was just hanging out on the street corner in the world. And I looked up and there was Douglas and I, God almighty, who are you? And he said, oh, I'm a writer. Really? What'd you write? Oh, a couple of books. I wrote a book called Hitchhiker's Guide. I go, wait a minute, you're Douglas Adams. Yeah, oh, that's right. You want to go to dinner? I tackled him by his ankles. There's certain people that come into your life, don't let them go. Never let them go. Never, never, never.
Do you think that he inspired you somehow in some ways, like in your work or even in your life?
No, there was no increase there with him. I felt like when I was with him, I was in a platoon, a marching band, something where Douglas was there right by me when we were both in step and he was playing, I don't know what, a tuba, and I don't know what I was playing. And we never talked about that part of it. But what we did talk about was we talked about how important it was to write these things down and put them out there, even if, you know, it was not completely clear to us. You know, Douglas would roll those die and we would all just kind of look at each other. When he died, his sister, and they both went out of their way at the party after, not a party, but was the wake. And they both came up to me and they said, thank you. Because I was the only one that gave a eulogy. I don't know what to tell you what that means. He was not unpopular, but he could be a fierce adversary. People that smart tend to be really dangerous. They're the people you don't want biting you. And Douglas was one of them. You know, you don't want to get crossways with a mind that powerful. And frankly, Mayara, I don't think anybody is in any political government on the planet that thinks that way. But I don't know that's true. I'm pretty sure it is, but you know, it was a very rare, I can't emphasize the rare aspect of the way he thought. You know, you don't come across people like that. You don't, and there's no danger. It's pure good stuff, good trouble.
It's amazing. It's really amazing seeing you talking about him, and I'm really honored talking to you already. Like, it's amazing. I have to be honest, I was really nervous with this, really nervous, because
until you found out my t-shirt glowed in the dark.
The best part of it, your t-shirt.
Yeah.
Besides, don't get bit. Do you have another advice from him?
It was kind of self-evident advice. It was like, don't drive off of a cliff.
It's a good advice.
Yeah, you may not plan on it, but if you find yourself in free fall, jump.
If you don't have another choice.
No, we really don't. And that's why these guys get you going, get me going, and so forth. And I love the fact that he writes detective novels. I mean, come on, that's perfect. And we would talk about those and talk about that. I mean, Douglas described in great detail how Dirk Gently's couch got stuck between two dimensions of mind, and it was stuck on the steps of Dirk Gently's office, halfway through two dimensions, and nobody could move it. so nobody could get in and out of the apartment building that Dirk Gently has an office there. And it's a great setup for the whole Dirk Gently holistic detectives agency thing. Can't recommend it strongly enough. Good.
I always recommend, because a lot of people just watch the Netflix TV show, which is not an adaptation. It's based on the books, but I think I can say that is a story after the books. But a lot of people still don't know the books, especially here, because it took a while to get here. But most of the people know more about the hitchhikers. I always say, try to read Last Chance to See, but we don't have it translated, so people have to know English to read it. When I talked to Sue, she said that she had no idea, like, how big was it. Huge. She discovered after he died.
It's one of the most popular books of all time.
Yeah, like she said that she started receiving a lot of messages from all over the world. And she said,
I didn't about this too.
She said, like, I haven't noticed, like, how big was it? Because I thought, oh, he's my brother and he wrote a book. And that's it. Like, that's what she thought.
14 million, kiddo. That's how many it sold.
It amazes us, because I think every day we get to know new fans. It's going to be 20 years of his death, and it's been 42 years of the books, like, this year, which is another celebration. It's something different, but it's good to have, like, everyday new fans and people getting to know more. And talking to you, because Michael Nesmith, beside the monkeys, was the guy who almost did the Hitchhikers movie. He almost produced that, like, for us.
No. Well, that would be inaccurate. I never got close to Douglas's creative fire, not by choice and not because I'm afraid of getting bit, but because it was so bright, and it was a prism of color to me. Every time he would show up in my life, I would see the car coming up the road because it glowed on the inside. There was a light coming from the inside. Hell, here comes Douglas in a rent car. So whatever he was populating and whatever he was doing was making it glow. I don't know what it was, Mayada. I don't have any idea. I'm not chasing that. I'm chasing something else. But I loved that he chased it. I loved it. I loved listening to him talking about the aquatic ape. I mean, okay, I know that's out there. I don't depend on it for anything, but it's a pretty interesting idea.
By the way, have you watched the movie, the 2005 movie, or no?
Oh, sure. Well, it was terrifying, and I said, "Boy, this fell off the table." That's all I could say. I mean, it was, those people were so earnest. And everybody loves hitchhikers, and everybody wanted to do it just exactly right. And you can't do it. No, because you're given a manual when you go out onto hitchhikers territory. It only has one page in it, and it only has one phrase on it. Guess what it is? It's only 3 words. Don't get bit. Then you close it up, you think, that's it? That's it. Take that, go somewhere.
Perfect.
Don't get bit.
And do you know that they are producing a new TV show now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hulu, the new streaming service, they are producing a new Hitchhikers TV show. I don't know when it's going to be released because of the pandemic, so everything is delayed. Yeah. But they have the plan. Well,
let's pray that it's not as awful as all the rest of them have.
Yeah. We are excited, and at the same time we are afraid.
Well, we belong to a group of people who get the joke but cannot explain it, and I can't tell you how this stuff happens with Douglas. I remember, again, another cold passage here. I remember how I cried when he died, and I was sad like it for weeks. I would be in the shower, lathering up, and just start to weep because I miss him so much. That has not gone away. I report to people who have lost loved ones. I'm sorry, it's bad news. because once they're gone, partner, they're gone. You might hook up later, but you're not going to hook up with them here because they ain't here no more. And here and there and all that stuff starts to take on these extraordinary notions. Who are you going to talk to about that? You seem like a nice person. I'm never going to call you back and talk about this. The only person I can talk about it with is Douglas Adams. And I would call up and say, hey, where are you? And he would say, Kuala Lumpur. I said, oh, you know, they have the great statues there. And we're off and running. And I've never had that in my life until he came along. People think in some way I had it with the other three guys and the monkeys and the various people that I worked with during the monkeys and the different stuff, but nothing would have prepared me for, you know, the presence of Douglas Adams. I mean, he was just such a wonderful playmate, wonderful, wonderful playmate. And please, God, if you can hear me, let all the world be full of children.
I'm really, really happy that I got the chance talking to you, and especially like honored because you said that you haven't talked to anyone about Douglas. So it's a huge pleasure like having that moment with you, especially with you.
I hear you, Mayara. Well, I wish you luck with this thing. You'll get a lot more after you listen to Don't Get Bit. We'll have some great laughs. There's some great laughs. There's a huge setup for a laugh at the end of that lecture. And when it goes, when it hits, you can't stop laughing. It is very, very brilliantly funny. Like he was.
I love seeing his interviews and lectures on YouTube. It's great. And thank God for the internet and is available there because I think you wouldn't have anywhere else. But thank you so much, Michael. Like I have to say, I truly adore you. I think you are amazing, really amazing. I really got emotional in this, especially knowing that you took a time to talk about him all like after all these years.
Sure.
Because he was an amazing guy for how like everyone talks about him. He was an amazing guy. And
well, apropos of that, Mayara, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
But ever since I have found myself sitting shoulder to shoulder to someone with national or international approbation, people who love their work and people who are coming up with great ideas. And when you find yourself at dinner with one of them or at some place where you're able to talk a little bit, they deliver. They don't, you know, they're not out there fucking around. They're out there doing it. And they're saying, this is the way this works, and this is the way that works, and nobody knows how this works. And that's so refreshing in them in a high mind when they're not just saying, beats the hell out of me. It's much more substantial than that. It's like, these are mysteries and we have to work to understand them. And that's what Douglas did. And that's what he taught me to do. If you don't know what it means, stay there until you do.
I really wanted this to be not just like an interview. Like I'm a fan talking to someone who knew him. I'm your fan and I'm his fan. So getting to know both of you, like with you, it's amazing for me.
I'm so glad you included me. I've watched these specials on Douglas come and go, and I think to myself, oh man, I could have done that, or I could have been part of it, or I could have said hello, or I could have told some stories or something. But until your outreach, I didn't have any reason to talk to anybody. Nobody asked.
I think more people should read like Infinite Tuesday to understand better. But I think people didn't understand like how was your relationship. Well, you two, you have a strong friendship.
Yeah. Well, and it is a friendship that continues on beyond death and beyond the loss of the person. And in that, I'll say this because it's high metaphysics, but I'm not going to argue it. there is no death. Nothing dies. Nothing goes away. We're all here forever. So get used to it. And it's not the same horrible thing that mortality is. It's a beautiful, high, heavenly clarity that we depend on to get us from here home and to get us from home to work and from work to play. We depend on those interconnected threads. And unless there's somebody around with us with the magic light that Douglas had and say, oh, look at that. And I thought, I never saw that before. Is that a monster? Oh, no, look, it does this. It loves that. That tickles it. Oh, my God, I didn't know that. Douglas, did you ever have one of these? Oh, no, don't do it. Don't get bit. He knew what was venomous and what wasn't.
It's amazing. And like I said, it's different. It's a different situation. Last year, when we talked with the actor who was in the TV show, David Lerner, he cried. He said like how was important to talk about Douglas and how it was great to work with and how was the relationship. So it's amazing how everyone gets emotional, and it's hard for us. Like we didn't get the chance to know him, but we get emotional with everyone as well.
Yeah, well, you're right. And the reason for it, I think, is that it's territory that's very, very, let me use the right word. I wanted to say wild. So I'll go ahead and say it wild. There's really not anything out there except you and whoever you're going out there with, whoever invited you out there with. And if you go out there and you start to look around, you realize the continuity of all life. It never stops. It has never stopped, will never stop. Easy to see. Sounds like some metaphysical treatise, but it's not. It's just the way things are. I don't know a time when it's not been here and when it doesn't work and when intelligence doesn't govern. I've never known a time. I mean, there's been times when I thought, oh, that's unfair, or oh, that doesn't seem right. But that's not what creates the universe I live in. What creates that universe is my own God-provided high thought about what's really going on. And when I feel that presence, I feel the presence of God. I feel the presence of divine mind and divine intelligence. And I don't know how you get that unless you just get next to it. And with Douglas, that's what it was. That was what was glowing in the car when he was driving up the road.
Thank you so much, Michael. Really.
My pleasure, Mariana. And I got to go. I'm getting notes now from the staff who are all sweating bullets. So
I apologize because I know like it was supposed to be like a long conversation, but I could spend the whole day here with you.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. And thank you for the support of Douglas' work. And don't forget our guy here.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mariana.
I hope to someday talking to you about your work. I'm really, really big fan. Thank you so much for that. And take care. Be safe.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. I honor the light within you. Bye-bye.
Love you, Michael. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.